Have you ever felt that the more you talk, the less people listen? I have. I felt it one Thursday night at a dinner with strangers. There was noise, laughter, toasts, egos. Everyone was talking. Everyone wanted to impress. And yet, the most interesting person there barely said a word. He was a man with short beard, wearing a gray shirt, calm eyes. He listened carefully, nodded, and when he spoke, rarely, each word fell like a stone in a pond. Silence. Everyone paid attention. And I thought, what the hell does that man have? When I got home, I couldn't help but search through my books. I randomly opened a page of Epictetus and read, "The wise man is silent, because he speaks only when what he has to say is worth more than silence." That's when everything began. And what I discovered completely changed how I understood attraction. Because I realized there's a way to be magnetic without making any noise. A way the Stoics practiced every day, long before social media or mirror selfies existed. And now I want to tell you about it. But not as a quick tip, not as a list of habits, as a story. Because that night, that quiet stranger taught me something it took years to understand. And that story begins much earlier, in Rome. Marcus Aurelius was only 12 when he started being trained in Stoic philosophy. Not in speeches, not in calendar quotes. In real life, in how to look at the world with the eyes of someone who doesn't need to impress. And that's the first habit of silent attraction, observation without judgment. Marcus wrote in his meditations, "When you wake up in the morning, remember what a privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." See? He didn't say to opine or to convince. He said to observe. The man in the gray shirt didn't interrupt. He didn't correct. He didn't seek the spotlight. He was simply present. He observed with a peace that disarmed. Because someone who doesn't need to judge doesn't need to control. And that is magnetic. I envy that calm. Because I used to speak to fill voids. He remained silent to honor them. A week later in a cafe, I saw him again, this time alone. Reading. I approached. I asked what he was reading. Seneca on the shortness of life. And he smiled, calmly, like he expected nothing from me, like he didn't need to impress. That's when I understood the second habit. Indifference to applause. The Stoics believe that depending on others' approval is a form of slavery. Epictetus said, "If you wish to be loved, stop wanting to be loved." He was free because he didn't need validation. And when someone doesn't need your approval, they often earn it anyway. 7. Speak little, but when you do, let your words carry weight. You don't need to fill uncomfortable silences with noise. In fact, the Stoics knew that silence, well managed, is a form of wisdom. Epictetus made it clear. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we should listen twice as much as we speak. It's not about staying quiet out of fear, but choosing when and how to speak. And when you do, your words cut through the air like a sharpened sword. That's unforgettable. That leaves an impact. That draws people in. 8. Develop a presence that inspires respect, not fear. This may be the deepest and hardest habit to develop, because it's not about pretending. It's not about faking confidence or mystery. It's about being it. The Stoic lives according to his values. His consistency makes him trustworthy. And that integrity is so rare these days that it becomes magnetic, not for what he shows, but for what he represents. People feel safer around someone who knows who they are, even if they never say it. I remember the story of a slave who became one of the most influential philosophers of all time, Epictetus. His owner could beat him, humiliate him, but he couldn't break his spirit, and he didn't need to speak loudly to teach. Just being in his presence was enough to understand what dignity truly is. That's charisma in silence. That's living Stoicism. Now, let's go back to the beginning. Do you remember the question I asked you? That scene where everyone looks at you without you saying a word. That scene can become real. You don't need to shout, impress, or pretend. You just need to practice these 8 habits, day after day. And slowly, your energy will start speaking for you. Quiet, firm energy, like a tree that has survived 1,000 storms. What makes you socially attractive isn't what you say, but who you are when no one is listening. And if you've made it this far, I have a reward for you. Because while others are looking for tricks to be more interesting, you're cultivating virtue. And as a Stoic said, virtue is sufficient for happiness. And when you're happy with yourself, when you respect yourself in silence, the world starts respecting you too. So now, tell me, which of these habits will you start today? And if this video resonated with you, if it made you reflect, I invite you to leave a comment with your favorite habit. Subscribe for more content applying Stoicism to real life. And remember, you don't need to speak loudly when your presence already says everything that needs to be said. Let me tell you something almost no one understands about attraction. It doesn't begin with how you dress or how you physically look. It begins with how you think. And the Stoics knew that thought is the beginning of everything. The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts, wrote Marcus Aurelius in his Meditations. Now imagine how powerful someone is who walks through life with ordered thoughts, without anxiety, without needing approval. That mental serenity translates into presence, and presence is a magnet. Let's dive deeper into this concept. Why does someone become more attractive when they master their thoughts? Because they radiate security, not aggressive or fake confidence, but quiet assurance. They don't have to say they're valuable. They behave like someone valuable, and the world responds to that. This leads us to a key Stoic truth. Everything you need is already inside you. Epictetus said you cannot control what's external, only what's internal. Your mind, your judgments, your actions. What happens when you really understand that? You stop trying to impress. You no longer need to convince anyone. And it's precisely at that moment, when you need nothing from others, that you become more attractive. Because you're not taking energy, you're giving it. Let me share a real scene with you. Picture Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor, sitting alone in his tent during a war. Outside, his generals argue. Soldiers grow restless. Chaos builds. But he writes, in silence, calmly, without needing to prove anything. What do you think those around him felt? Fear? No. Respect. Admiration. Inspiration. Because his leadership came from example, not noise. That kind of attraction doesn't happen by chance. It's cultivated. And here I want to focus on something practical. If you want to apply these Stoic habits to your daily life, start in the morning. Yes, right after waking up. Before touching your phone, before checking the outside world, breathe. Reflect. Ask yourself, what can I control today? That simple Stoic practice prepares your mind to be unshakable. And as you already know, calm attracts. Later, during the day, do the experiment. Observe more and speak less. Not like someone hiding, but like someone who doesn't need to fill the space. Notice what others reveal when you don't speak. You'll see things more clearly. And every time you decide to speak, let it come from intention, not reaction. That's what the Stoics did. And that's what you can do too. It's not about being cold or distant. It's about not being a slave to noise. Because when you're at peace, people notice. They feel safe around you. And in a world full of uncertainty, safety is more attractive than any perfect physique or well-told joke. So if today you decide to cultivate that Stoic presence, let it show not in your words, but in your habits. Now, one of the most common mistakes we make when trying to be more attractive is trying to please everyone. We seek approval, smiles, validation. But the Stoics warned us about this over 2,000 years ago. Marcus Aurelius said it plainly. We care more about what other people think of us than about what we ourselves think. That's an invisible prison. And most people live inside it without even realizing it. Want to know what truly makes you attractive? It's not trying to please everyone. It's not needing to be liked by every person who crosses your path. When you stop chasing approval, when you no longer react like a weather vane to others' judgment, you become imposing. Not because you intimidate, but because you are free. And personal freedom is magnetic. Now imagine this. You're at a social gathering. Everyone is talking, joking, trying to stand out. You're just there, calm, present, observing. You don't compete. You don't interrupt. You don't over-explain. But when you speak, everyone listens. Why? Because you've created contrast. You've cultivated what the Stoics called euthea, a straight posture, a clear inner direction. And not only that, When someone says something you disagree with, you don't react with aggression. You don't raise your voice. You simply raise an eyebrow, smile slightly, and with respect you respond, or choose to stay silent. That control over your emotions, that quiet maturity, has a power that needs no volume. This is where one of the pillars of Stoic philosophy comes in: autarkia or self-sufficiency, not depending emotionally on your surroundings to feel good. When you cultivate that self-sufficiency, your energy changes. You no longer wait for someone to validate you, because you've already validated yourself. And that shows in every gesture, in every step. Here's a practical habit. During the day, take a 5-minute pause and reflect on your reactions. Ask yourself, does this feeling come from something I can control or from something I've allowed to control me? This Stoic practice trains you in the art of conscious response. And the person who responds with awareness, not impulse, becomes like a lighthouse in the storm for those around them. Let's be honest, more than ever, the world needs fewer loud people and more grounded ones. Less hysteria, more self-control. Fewer empty words, more meaningful actions. Do you know the best part of all this? You don't need to be famous, have millions of followers, or look like a magazine cover. You just need to work on yourself, on your mind, on your character, like the Stoics did, quietly, with intention. And when you do, you begin to track from a place that's authentic, a place that cannot be bought, copied, or faked, because it's real, because it's you. Maybe you're wondering, what if I practice all this and no one notices? What if I change and the world doesn't react as I expect? That's a valid question. And it's precisely the kind of test that reveals a Stoic spirit, because the Stoic doesn't do the right thing to be applauded. He does it because it's right, because living with virtue is reward enough. Seneca put it with brutal clarity. He who does good seeking a reward has already been paid. And do you know what that reward is? Inner peace. That feeling that, even if no one says it, you're doing what you must, that you don't need external recognition, because your own conscience is both witness and judge of your life. For a mature soul, that is more than enough. And yet, ironically, when you stop seeking to be noticed, that's exactly when people start noticing you. Because your energy changes. Because you don't chase, you attract. And people sense it. Your partner, your colleagues, your friends, everyone. Not for what you loudly do, but for what you quietly carry, day after day. Think of it this way. A river doesn't make noise when it runs deep. Now I invite you to a mental exercise. Imagine you're in a conversation, and someone keeps talking about themselves, interrupts you, brags. How does that make you feel? Exhausted, right? Now imagine another scene. Someone who looks at you attentively, doesn't interrupt, nods, asks relevant questions, doesn't try to shine, but shines through presence. Who feels more attractive to you? There's your answer. Stoic silence isn't muteness. It's contained power. It's choosing when to speak and when to hold back. It's mastering the rhythm of conversation, knowing you don't need to tell your whole story to make an impact. Sometimes just one intentional phrase or a firm gaze that speaks louder than 1,000 words is enough. And speaking of gaze, this is another habit the Stoics practiced without naming it directly, but they lived it full attention. When you're truly present, not with your mind wandering or your body restless, you transmit something rare and powerful, total focus. And attention is one of the rarest gifts today. Those who give it become unforgettable. So in your next encounter, whether a date, an interview, or a simple conversation with a friend, practice this. Listen as if what they're saying is the most important thing in the world, without thinking about what you'll say next. Just listen. You'll see how, without uttering a single clever word, you become memorable. Because being Stoic also means this: making the present moment your stage, and inhabiting it with dignity. Maybe you're wondering again, what if I practice all this and no one notices? What if I change and the world doesn't react the way I expect? It's a fair question. And it's precisely the kind of test that defines a Stoic spirit. Because the Stoic doesn't do what's right for applause. He does it because it's right. Because living with virtue is reward enough. Seneca expressed it bluntly. He who does good seeking a reward has already been paid. And Do you know what that reward is? Inner peace. That feeling that, even if no one acknowledges it, you're doing what you must. That you don't need external validation because your own conscience is both witness and judge of your life. For a mature soul, that is more than enough. And yet, ironically, when you stop seeking to be seen, that's exactly when you start being seen. Because your energy changes. Because you don't chase, you attract. And people notice. Your partner, your co-workers, your friends, all of them. Not for what you do loudly, but for what you silently carry, day after day. Think of it this way. A river doesn't make noise when it flows deep. Now I invite you to a mental exercise. Imagine you're in a conversation, and someone keeps talking about themselves. They interrupt you, brag. How does that make you feel? Exhausted, right? Now imagine another scene. Someone who looks at you with full attention, doesn't interrupt, nods, asks meaningful questions, doesn't try to shine, but shines through presence alone. Who feels more attractive to you? There's your answer. Stoic silence isn't muteness. It's restrained power. It's choosing when to speak and when to stay quiet. It's mastering the rhythm of conversation, knowing you don't need to tell your whole story to make an impact. Sometimes just one intentional phrase or a firm gaze that speaks louder than 1,000 words is enough. And speaking of gaze, this is another habit the Stoics practice without naming it directly: full attention. When you're completely present, not distracted, not restless, you transmit something rare and powerful: total focus. And attention is one of the rarest gifts today. Those who give it become unforgettable. So in your next interaction, whether to date, an interview, or a simple chat with a friend, practice this. Listen as if what they're saying is the most important thing in the world. Don't think about how to respond. Just listen. You'll see how, without saying a single clever word, you become memorable. Because being stoic also means this: making the present moment your stage and inhabiting it with dignity. There's something almost nobody tells you about silence. It's not the absence of communication. It's a higher form of it. Look, noise is easy. Anyone can talk endlessly, fill space, comment on the obvious. But silence done well, requires mastery. And the Stoics were masters of that art, because they knew real power doesn't come from external noise, but from internal control. Marcus Aurelius put with calm that cuts deep. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. If you feed your mind with reactivity, judgment, and complaints, that's what you project. But if you feed it with peace, observation, and self-control, that's what you radiate. No need to explain it. No need to sell it. The world doesn't need more people talking about virtues. It needs people who embody them, who act with patience when everything urges haste, with strength when everything wavers, with kindness when cynicism feels easier. That kind of presence isn't just attractive, it's transformative. And here's the curious part. It's not mysterious like many describe. It's simply consistent. The person who behaves the same way alone as they do in public emits a vibration others recognize as authenticity. And authenticity, in a world of masks, shines brighter than anything else. Let me share with you a Stoic practice that might change the way you walk through life. Every night, before sleep, review your day as if you were a neutral observer. Ask yourself, where was I wise today? Where did I let emotion drag me down? What can I improve tomorrow? This daily reflection, practiced by Seneca and Epictetus, doesn't just make you more aware, it makes you more magnetic. Because self-awareness is like a polished mirror. It lets you see clearly, and that clarity shows. Now let's go deeper. Have you ever wondered why some people earn respect even from their enemies? Because their values don't shift. They don't depend on public opinion or external validation. They're anchored in something stronger: principles. When you anchor your life in principles, you stop being predictable to the world. And paradoxically, that makes you trustworthy. Because everyone knows you won't sell out for flattery or break under criticism. You're just you, quietly, but powerfully. That's what makes people remember you without trying, seek you out without begging, follow you without commanding. Because in the end, true attractiveness isn't about how much you stand out. It's about how much you inspire. Let me tell you a story. Diogenes Laertius recounts how a young man once approached Epictetus visibly frustrated because he felt no one took him seriously. He spoke loudly, dressed elegantly, quoted philosophers, yet still no one respected him. Epictetus looked at him calmly and said, "You don't need to convince the world of who you are. You only need to be it, and live it in silence." That sentence, simple yet ruthless, holds a core of Stoicism applied to personal magnetism. Because what truly makes us magnetic isn't the desire to be seen. It's the clarity of knowing ourselves, not the effort to convince, but the certainty of walking aligned with who we claim to be. And my friend, that cannot be faked. The world smells pretense from miles away. When you are authentic, silently, the world notices. Today, many confuse visibility with value. But tell me this. What good is being seen if you're empty inside? What good is filling rooms if you can't be alone with yourself? Stoicism teaches us to flip that equation. First be, then act. Then, if recognition comes, let it not change you. And if it doesn't come, let it not shake you. That kind of emotional stability is so rare. It becomes irresistibly attractive. Now here's a radical idea. The most seductive thing you can project is not desire. It's direction, not neediness, purpose. When someone senses that you know where you're going and that you won't stray from your path for a smile, a compliment, or an easy opportunity, they start seeing you as someone valuable. Because those who have direction lead. Those who have principles inspire. And those who live their philosophy in silence transform. And let me say this plainly. This kind of attraction isn't built with empty phrases or forced poses. It's cultivated when you choose every day to act as if you were already the best version of yourself, even when no one is watching, even when no one acknowledges it, because that's the essence of the Stoic, doing what's right, not because it's seen, but because it's right. And that consistency, that silent constancy, is what builds a solid reputation, one that needs no defense, because it stands on its own. So if you ever doubt whether all this effort is worth it, remember this. In a world that talks too much, silent coherence speaks louder than any scream. Now you know, silence is not weakness. It's a language, one few master, but all recognize when they hear it. It's the language of those who've cultivated the soul, of those who chose depth over appearance, of those who've learned you don't need to shout to be heard. You just need to be. And I want you to remember this, because now more than ever, being Stoic isn't just an ancient philosophy. It's an act of rebellion. In a world that pushes you to react, you choose to respond. Where others run, you decide to remain. Where everyone seeks to be seen, you choose to see clearly. And that is your advantage. While others wear themselves out competing for attention, you cultivate character. While others dress up as someone they're not, you become who you've always wanted to be. And just like that, without even trying, you end up standing out. Because there's nothing rarer, more refreshing, or more attractive than someone who's authentic, calm, and firm. Someone who doesn't get shaken by every wind. Someone who needs no decoration. Someone who simply is. That can be you, or it can become you. All you have to do is start, not with big changes, but with small daily choices, with the habit of observation, with the practice of self-control, with the courage to hold your course, even when no one else sees it. And with that, we return to the beginning. Do you want to be socially attractive in silence? Don't memorize phrases. Don't copy gestures. Lie by principles. Train your character. Sharpen your mind. Bring order to your emotions. Because when the soul is well governed, everything else falls into place. Now it's your turn to act. Choose one of these 8 habits. Just one. Practice it for 7 consecutive days. Don't announce it. Don't post about it. Just do it. And observe what changes, not outside, but inside. Because that inner change always reflects outwardly. And if this video resonated with you, if something inside you awakened, I invite you to become part of this community. Subscribe. Share this message with someone who needs to remember that silence is also a form of power. And above all, leave a comment. Which Stoic habit will you practice this week? I'll see you in the next video. Until then, stay strong, stay calm, and never underestimate the power of your silent presence.
Remember, practicing Stoicism is a daily journey toward inner peace and resilience. If this video has inspired you to reflect or helped you see things from a different perspective, I'd love to read your thoughts in the comments. Which idea resonated with you the most? How do you apply Stoic discipline in your life? Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any content. Together, we will continue exploring the wisdom of the great Stoics and discovering how to apply it to our modern lives. Thank you for being part of this community. See you in the next video. Keep cultivating strength with every step and share your journey with us.